Hi guys, I'm the MCU guy and welcome to the MCU podcast. It's been a bit of a while since I've last been on this podcast, and I think I say this every single time, but as you can imagine, life does get in the way sometimes. There's been a lot of things happened since the last time we recorded. We've had Doctor Strange, we've had Ms Marvel, and we've had Thor, Love and Thunder. I wanted to get more into the Doctor Strange discussion last month, but to be fair, I think the time's kind of passed for that now. So I'm going to turn our attention to Thor and Ms Marvel, and we're going to cover them two topics today in this podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by a new guest to the podcast, Mr. Ryan Morell. Hello, Ryan.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you, bud. What I normally do with new guests, as people, normal listeners will know, is I like to kind of get to know a bit more about yourself and your MCU journey. So, have you got well, first of all, what is it that you do? Are you what do you do for work and stuff? Tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm a PE teacher, so
nice.
I've had a few careers, but I've ended up becoming a PE teacher, which for people that do know me would have been like, I can't believe you've gone and done that way. But that's how life goes, really, isn't it? So yeah, I ended up a PE teacher. I'm a big rugby player, so this is like my dark side, if you want to put it in that way. Like, not many people know, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. So is it something that have you been into comics since you were a kid, or is it more just the MCU, like the cinematic universe side, that you kind of got into with Marvel?
I've always been into Thor as a kid. Like my uncle and some of his friends were massively into it when it first started coming out, when Stan Lee originally brought out the comics.
Yeah.
Which he got me into there, and it was also along with the Star Wars franchise and stuff like that, which then led me onto it. But then leading on to, obviously, to when Iron Man came out, and that just completely sent it. Obviously, can't forget about Blade, but no one really knew that was MCU until later down the line.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing that got me into Marvel.
Cool. So what would you say, obviously, in relation to the MCU, what would you say is your earliest MCU memory? You mentioned Iron Man. Was that the first film you went to see?
Yeah, so I remember going to see it. It came out in 2007, didn't it?
2008, it was.
2008, yeah. So I would have been only 13, 14. So I'd have gone with my uncle, I think. And
yeah.
my earliest memory is that when he first comes out of that cave, after he makes that suit,
yeah,
and he's just full blown going with the flamethrowers. He's made it out of his own tech, but he doesn't realize he's done it. And yeah, that's my earliest fond memory. And yeah, it's always stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's an iconic moment and an iconic film, really. One of RDJ's best. Can't fault you there. A lot of people say Iron Man. To be fair, I know obviously it would be in the first film. A lot of people would go there, but some people enter it at different times. I entered it Avengers. I'd not watched the first ones until I got to Avengers, and other people only discover it even later on, or even now, because obviously different people with different ages enter it, and then they'll go back and revisit all the old stuff. So, so in regards to we've only been doing this for a while now, because obviously the shows have only been around for the past year or so. But so I'm going to ask you your favorite MCU show and your favorite MCU film. Okay. We'll start with the show. Which one's been your favorite so far?
Mine would be. It's tough because the ones that have come out have just been, they top each other every time, so it's hard. But for me, it's going to have to be Loki or Moon Knight. I can't really pick which one, because Loki's so diverse, where he goes into the multiverse, and we see a bit of that before we get to Doctor Strange with the TVA and stuff like that. But then Moon Knight brings a completely different spin to Marvel, that the darker side. Obviously, Stephen trying to find out who he is, and then Mark comes out, and then we see the guy at the end. It's just crazy. So those two are the contrast. But yeah, before that, it would have been Punisher, that was really under the radar. But that was the big time. But yeah, it's got to be between Loki and Moon Knight for me.
Yeah, you know what? They've all been fantastic, and they've all been great in their own ways. And to be fair, I didn't really think about putting the Netflix shows in there now, but I suppose we can do, because they are canon. They are technically canon now, so that kind of opens a whole world of possibilities now, which is cool.
And supposedly they are returning.
Yes. Since some news about Jessica Jones apparently coming up in the what's going on here? Jessica Jones coming up in She-Hulk.
Yeah,
which is quite interesting. I mean, I'd love for Kristen Ritter to come back as Jess Jones in any sort of way. And to prefer any of them, if any of them want to come back, I'll take Danny Rand. I'll take Iron Fist as well. I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
Bring him back. Everyone seems to hate him, but I think it's great. So, what about film then? What would you say your favorite MCU film is?
Again, tough, really. Obviously, my nostalgia is Thor. He's my superhero. Everyone, I know people go for Iron Man and Captain America, but the Thor franchise, the first one for me was class. How he lost his ability and came forward. But it's been recent that it's got to be either Ragnarok or Guardians Galaxy, their first one. And Ragnarok because it tells a completely different spin. And Guardians Galaxy is it's iconic in that way where it brings all the old music in, and Chris Pratt plays Star Lord phenomenal. So
yeah. Again, great choices. Ragnarok is easily in my top. It's in my top 5, I'd say, and I don't think anything's really going to knock it out of the top 5. Even Love and Thunder doesn't really knock it off its perch. I think Ragnarok is better than Love and Thunder, but we'll go into more of that in the second part of the podcast anyway. So, well, it's great to have you on the show, by the way, Ryan. And
thanks for having me.
And thanks for telling us more about yourself and your favorite MCU show and memories. So let's delve into the first topic of discussion this month, and Ms Marvel, the story of Kamala Khan discovering her powers and becoming Ms Marvel. Obviously going to tie into the Marvels film coming out next year with Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers coming back and returning, with all 3 of them becoming the Marvels. I feel like this was served more as an introduction to Ms Marvel's character as opposed to anything else. My reason for it is I thought that the show didn't really have that much of a great storyline. I thought I was a bit disappointed with the villains in the show, the clandestines. I don't really think they offered a lot to the show, which is a bit of a shame, really, because the clandestines in the comics are supposed to be like a really, really all-powerful family that have ties with the X-Men and like the Inhumans and stuff. So it's weird that they were kind of played down in the show, which I thought was quite disappointing. I don't know about you, but apart from the storyline not being the best, I thought that Kamala Khan, Amina Villani, is that how you say her name? Let's have a look. Iman Villani, yeah. I thought her portrayal of Kamala Khan was really, really good, and I thought she was the best thing about the show, really. From someone who'd never been in anything before, like they took her completely out of like high school, and they were like, "Here you go, you're going to play a major role in an MCU TV show." I thought she did a fantastic job, and she was the best part of the show for me. What about you? What did you think? What did you think about her performance in general and the show overall?
I agree. I think Marvel done her a bit of disjustice because I don't know if you played the Avengers game. You live and breathe Kamala to start with, and you learn who you are, and you learn to go and find the Avengers and stuff like that. And it goes on about how she gets her powers. Now in the series, I think it's a little bit flat. Like she does an exceptional role of how she plays Kamala Khan. She's quirky. She's a chaotic, colourful character with that imagination, of who wears a heart on a sleeve at the same time. And I don't think we got what we wanted from the series. We saw the powers, but why didn't we see more? We should have seen that a little bit more. Like going through it, and like you said with the villains, should there have been a little bit more? Like we know in the comics, they're badass. And they go for it, and they use the Inhumans to an extent to benefit them. And I think, obviously I haven't seen the last episode, which I know you're going to briefly touch on a little bit later. But yeah, I think, it's it's sad because Marvel have done so well. I think they just dropped the ball a little bit.
Yeah. Again, I completely agree with what you're saying there. The what I would say is the last episode might entertain you a bit more than for what you want from Kamala Khan. To be fair, there's certain bits in that last episode that are really cool and are more Kamala Khan style, using her powers. So
yeah.
I recommend you watch the last episode because I think you might be impressed with it. So what I quite liked at the end, what I think Marvel are doing really well at the moment is every single show that comes out is completely different, and they're not all the same. They're not all the same show with all the same format. The biggest criticism that the MCU gets, especially with the films, is that they're all kind of the same and they all follow the same pattern. They all follow the same themes, and it's a bit of comedy with a bit of drama and with superheroes. And as much as I love the MCU, there is obviously that kind of trope that comes with it, and I can hold my hand up and say, yeah, there is a lot of that. Mainly more of the early Phase 1, Phase 2 films, but Phase 3 has really, really pushed the boundaries and explored so many different kinds of concepts and different kinds of shows in the MCU. And I was really, really happy to see that they've properly embraced the Pakistan, India, whole like history of that country and with the partition. And it's something that I didn't really know much about. And obviously being from the UK and being British and was having being controlled them for so long, having controlled that country for so long, and then them getting their independence. It was enlightening for me because obviously we learned stuff in high school and primary school about what we did as a country when back when we used to rule most of the world. But I didn't know anything about the partition, and I was really, really impressed that they're using actual historical facts to shape this Marvel world that they've created. And I thought it was fantastic having such a diverse show added to the roster. And yeah, I hope that more shows are going to kind of go down that route. And I know that a lot of internet trolls kind of get on the back about there being so much diversity in the MCU and they're trying to pander to everyone. But
yeah,
I 100% don't see it that way. I can't understand how anyone would think that way. Why would you not want to? Why would you not want to see these stories with some of these characters, some of these great like characters from the comics? So I was really impressed with it. Is there anything that any other things you got about Ms Marvel that you were impressed with?
No, I completely agree. I think that Marvel, the MCU, go on about how they're so on about their culture and on about everything else, and they want people to be involved. And they're trying to pull different people into it. I think it's great. And I think they did that with Kamala because she's a teenage girl, and it's drawing that generation in because you've got the dads, you've got the mums of when the first ones came out, and then it's coming in now, bringing up the next generation and starting to look at the next generation. It's making it more inclusive, and I think that's what it's done with this series. I know I've been quite negative about it throughout the start of the chat, but I do think there is parts in the series where it draws you in. Like you want to know what's going on, and then it's like, okay, this is going to happen. And it goes a completely different way. Same with the other series in Marvel, it's just gone completely different way. Like people, critics have said, Phase 4 doesn't really have a direction. I sort of disagree. I sort of think it's bringing in the different universes now, and like the X-Men and stuff like that. Like it's coming in. Like I know it's coming in from this series to an extent. It's just widening the universe.
Yeah, it's like I think a lot of people that like kind of criticizing this phase for there not being like an overall like arc to it and what we're building towards. Forget that what Phase 1 was like. Phase 1 thought that everyone thought that Phase 1 was just building to Loki being the big bad guy, when really Loki was just a pawn in the greater story that ended in Phase 3. Three phases down the line, so people can get on the studio's back about there not being a clear like direction for it. But we've had sprinklings of Kang, in there. We've had sprinklings of the X-Men. We've had sprinklings of the Inhumans. We've had sprinklings of multiversal stuff, and I can't understand how people would have such a negative criticism of it. Like, why? It's just playing out the same way that Phase 1 was doing, but on a grander scale, but being a bit more like patient with what they do. Like they're giving it in small pieces and they're building up something. Like if you look at like what's happened with Black Widow and in Falcon Winter Soldier with the introduction of Val for the Thunderbolts. We obviously know that Thunderbolts is going to happen at some point, but it's been spread out over a number of projects over this phase, and we're still only halfway through this phase, and we've got San Diego Comic-Con later this month, where there's probably going to be more announcements for either more stuff for Phase 4 or Phase 5, in fact, which. And it probably will get to the fact that it probably will be Phase 5, and we will probably get the announcement of something like the X-Men. So I can't understand why people are getting so annoyed about it, because again, the stories are shaping, but they're being able to shape it in ways that are not just exclusive to film. Obviously, we've got these TV shows now, and I think people are expecting the world to just fall at the feet in every single project that happens. And it's a bit unfair because you're taking away from some of these really interesting stories and some of these interesting characters that have been brought into the MCU. Like with Moon Knight. What did Moon Knight really set up for the future of the MCU? Not really a lot, apart from like, exactly, filling in gaps in history and tying like actual historical stuff into the MCU world. And maybe like, what is it, Midnight Suns? Is that one of the things he's part of? Moon Knight, is it?
Yeah.
So maybe they might do something like that further down the line, but nothing really screams out what he brings for the rest of the MCU. But it was one of the best shows for me. So again, I think it was great. So obviously we have spoken about some of the good parts about it and some of the bad parts about Ms Marvel. Where would you like to see Ms Marvel go after the Marvels? I mean, obviously there's going to be a bit of a connection to Secret Invasion with the Skrulls. But would you like to see Ms Marvel get a season 2 and see her do more teenage things or not?
I'd like to see what they can actually do with her, because she's going to go to Ms Marvel and into the Marvels, should I say? And you know she's not going to be the front four of that film. I'd like to see her go into a season 2 and actually have it her own way, do what she wants, bring in some of the other superheroes that she knows that she can work with, and then start leading towards the Avengers. We know she becomes a part of the Avengers later down the line in the comics. Why can't we lead it that way? And I'd like her to see more of key roles in it, like we had in Infinity War and Endgame. We had cameos that we never thought we were going to have. Those sort of things, and then it leads her on to stronger and stronger, and then she becomes one of the big six. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, there's talk of a Young Avengers film or show, which would obviously have a couple of characters that we've seen already from Phase 4. So I mean, that'd be quite interesting, because I think she'd be like one of the predominant figures in a Young Avengers. And again, more stuff about the younger side of the MCU. Like, why not have more stories about kids or teenagers that have got powers? Like Spider-Man's only a teenager. Why?
Exactly.
People can't get annoyed about the fact that Spider-Man has these powers, because everyone seems to love Spider-Man. But if it's any other kids, it's a bit like, this is just for kids. But I don't really get it. It's like, did you ever watch Runaways?
Yeah, I thought that could have that could have gone somewhere, but it just didn't. I think it's quite a shame, because the build-up looked quite good, and I think people didn't want it to go. People didn't want to see it get off, which is a shame, because I thought it was quite good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. This kind of gave me Runaways vibes, really, this show. Obviously, Runaways was a kind of bit darker because it was a Hulu show, and you could have got away with a bit more than you could do on Disney Plus. But in fact, I'd like the Runaways to kind of make the way into the actual MCU, which I hope they kind of do, because if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix shows can, then there's no reason why Runaways and Cloak and Dagger can't. Like, there's no reason at all. I hope they all eventually kind of come over and make their way over to the main MCU at some point. So, Ms Marvel, out of 10, what would you give the season overall? Obviously, you've not watched the finale, so
yeah. So for me,
I'd probably add another point for the finale because the finale is that good.
So okay, so without looking at the finale, I'd probably get 5. So if you're saying the finale's that good, I'll give it a 6, maybe 6.5. We'll see how we get on.
You'll have to let me know next time you're on what you thought about it. Or we did speak before the show about what you had read about it, and so for the people who haven't watched it, just shut off for the next like 2 minutes and then come back in, or just skip ahead like 2 minutes and then you'll come back to the normal chat. For anyone who has watched the final episode, very interesting ties to the X-Men. Get excited because that shit is happening soon. It has to be. But we'll leave it there. We won't go too much more into it, but quite an interesting twist. And a very good post-credit scene that obviously sets up the Marvels, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very good film, that anyway. So we'll leave it there for the Ms Marvel chat. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about Thor 4. Okay, back in a sec.
So, Scott, as you may be aware, there's a bit of a lockdown on.
Yes, I had heard that.
Lots of people have suddenly got a lot of time on their hands and a smorgasbord of content to choose from to fill that time. How can people find the best nerdy content when there's so much out there?
It's difficult, but don't worry.
Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the MCU podcast. So, in the second part of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the God of Thunder himself, Thor, and his 4th outing in the MCU. After Ragnarok, I'm pretty sure everybody who's watched Ragnarok wanted a 4th film with Taika Waititi at the helm, and Chris Hemsworth returning as the God of Thunder himself, Thor. We finally got a 4th installment for one of the original Avengers. They did it, guys. Well done, Thor. Well done, Chris. They came back, and Love and Thunder came in cinemas last week. I saw it on the day of release, and I saw it again on the Saturday. And you know what? This film is it's an incredible film that kind of put a lot of stuff that Thor set for Thor's character and his development and his story arc, and just threw a lot of stuff on top of it and just made it an amazing ride. What did you think of the film overall, Ryan?
For me, I generally didn't think they could top Ragnarok. I think going into it, we knew it wasn't going to be a completely serious film, and you don't get that with Taika. You know, he's that guy that comes in and just, you know what, just throws paint at a black and white picture. And this just gave you everything you wanted. You had the story, you had romance, you had laughter, you had fun with it, and then also you had the big bad guy. So for me, I have to put it up there as one of the best films I've seen so far in the MCU.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And like I said with Taika, I mean, the guy is an absolute genius. He seems to be getting a lot of flack at the moment online with people saying that he's made it too stupid and too ridiculous and like gone a bit over the top. But I mean, if you watch any of the projects that he's done in the past, it's just, I think it's just typical Taika. Like if you watch Jojo Rabbit, the man plays a gay Hitler.
Yeah, I know, it's mental.
How can you can't really get more stupid than that? So anyone who's got a negative thing to say about like the comedic touches in this film, go back and watch some more Taika stuff because you've not obviously watched enough of it to know what you're talking about. The Christian Bale as Gore. I mean, I've insanely good. Like. You'd like saw that thing. Do you see the thing that that I posted on my page about him testing like the most like sympathetic with fans over any MCU villain, even over Thanos? People felt more sympathy towards him than over Thanos. And
Did you see the you see the part they actually cut a scene in Thor: Love and Thunder because it was so like terrifying. You know, when he goes for the scream and you see him on his knees and he's full blown going for it. They actually cut the scream scene from it because it was so terrifying, because it was pure just him. And I think that's what made it's just Christian Bale, isn't it? Yeah, Christian Bale is just that guy.
He's another level, isn't it? Like, I mean, can you really top being the best Batman?
No.
You can be like the best MCU villain, or second best MCU villain, in my opinion. It's not as good as Thanos. I don't think anyone will be as good as Thanos. Incredible. But yeah, I mean, it gives it an absolute 10 out of 10 performance for Christian Bale, and I think he elevated the film for me from what could be just any normal comedic MCU film. So the return of lots of the original cast of the original the first Thor film. We get Dr. Selvig come back for a little cameo. We get Darcy for a cameo, and then obviously Natalie Portman as Jane Foster.
Don't forget Lady Sif as well.
Oh, Lady Sif as well. Yeah, of course she did. I mean, that's the second time we've seen her in Phase 4. She did nothing in Phase 2. Honestly, she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that's in Phase 2, but she weren't in Phase 3. No, not to see her. But 2 times in like 3 projects for Phase 4. Very good. Good to see her back, Jamie Alexander. Really, really good to see her back. Natalie Portman, I'm going to return to how good Natalie Portman was. Like, I think people forget how good Natalie Portman is as an actress. And she looked big. She looked like pretty hench. And she looked like she put in the work to get that physique to be playing the mighty Thor. And I really enjoyed the portrayal as well. I thought it was great, and you can tell that she was enjoying being in that fold again. And like I've seen a lot 100%. Of like TikToks and lots of like behind the scenes stuff where they're all just hanging out and having a laugh and just goofing around and stuff. And it's good to see that she's come back into it with a different mindset as where she left us in Thor: The Dark World. And yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely chuffed to bits that she's back, and well, that she came back, not that she is back, unless they want to do something with Valhalla.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was a nice touch at the end. I think, you know, Natalie Portman, it's a shame we didn't see her in Ragnarok. It would have been, you know, maybe we could have had that little bit of her dripping in there to come to Lady Thor. Yeah, I was quite. I wrote this down actually. I was quite shocked, and I spoke with the lads that I went with to the cinema to watch it, that they actually followed the comic, because Marvel do have a tendency sometimes to make a different way how they get it. And giving her the big cancer was like, wow, okay, now this has got deep with it as well. So it's actually making the story and showing us that she's going through that phase and how she becomes the mighty Thor. But I'd love to see how she actually picked it up. That would have been the one criticism, I think, from that. But yeah, phenomenal. And I think she almost took the limelight from Chris. It was that good.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Chris was like a part character in his own franchise film. They did actually film the transformation for becoming the mighty Thor, but that was part of the 4-hour original cut that they had. 4 hours.
I'd sit and watch it.
I'd say watch it. It would have been incredible, wouldn't it? It really be really good. What was disappointing was the fact that they managed to get the 4 hours down to like an hour and a half, and made it one of the shortest MCU films. Which, I mean, that's my only real criticism of the fact it was short. Yeah. Like, if I want my MCU films to be long, all the content, please. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see an extended cut, because I think there's going to be like in the extended cut there's like E-trees in it and the Grandmaster. Like, how can you edit them guys out of the film? Jesus Christ, absolutely insane. But I'd say it was good to see the Guardians. Like you obviously mentioned, the Guardians being one of your favorite films. Great to see the Guardians since for the first time since Endgame. Yeah, anything with the Guardians is great.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna come back into it. I thought, you know, a little bit that they were going to come back into it, because they obviously went looking for gods and stuff like that. But then they came back into it, but they didn't. But you know, maybe that leads on for later.
Yeah, I mean, I agree what you mean. There, obviously I know it was never going to be focused around the Guardians, but I thought they were going to have a bigger part in the film, really. I mean, if you think about it, they're only really in it for like 20 minutes, half an hour at the very most. And when you've got the Guardians being amazing as they are, it was a bit of a disappointment to see that they didn't come back and have a part in the end. But to be fair, with it being centered around that kind of stuff, it would have been cool to have the Guardians come back, especially Peter Quill coming back if it's something to do with Eternity, because obviously in Guardians 2, he has his eye-opening moment where he sees Eternity, but apparently it's not the same Eternity. But I don't think that's been completely confirmed by James Gunn, has it? But I'm sure I'm sure we'll find out at some point if that is the case. But yeah, it would have been cool to see more Guardians and find out what they were doing, because they said that they were obviously going to go and take care of these like distress calls for some of these other gods. But why they're not looking for Gamora?
Yeah, that's we'll obviously find that out when the film comes out in
early next year. I think we get Guardians 3. I think the only thing that I could think about is the fact that it could be that they could be finding Gamora after Endgame, but before this point. So Guardians 3 might go back and fill the gap between Endgame and Thunder.
I reckon so.
Because I mean, we must be like a year and a half into past Endgame now, with the way that, because Spider-Man Far From Home
he goes back,
was the summer after Endgame. So yeah, we're within like a year and a half, or about 2 years into it now. So I don't know. There's probably a lot of ground to cover. So in relation to like the storyline, you said that you really enjoyed the storyline.
Yeah.
Do you reckon the storyline in that has any like implications for the rest of the MCU going further? Because we saw some of the divine entities like Eternity and like the Living Tribunal and one of the Celestials, like I think is the overall Celestial, like the big Celestial in the center of the universe. Do you reckon that's going to potentially open the door for more of that kind of stuff going forward in the MCU?
Yeah, I think this has just opened a can of worms. I think, you saw at the end of the film what happens. For people that probably haven't seen it, we'll get into that. I think nothing can be written off. I think this has created like in Loki, it's created a curve.
Yeah.
And it's now opened up everything else. And I think it's something catastrophic is going to happen. And I think Thor's going to be bang in the middle of it. Yeah.
I hope so, to be fair, because I hope Thor does return for a fifth film. Because I mean, if the post-credit scene has anything to go by, then there kind of has to be some sort of clash between two people.
Yeah,
it needs to be Thor, but I think it could possibly center around some more of the some more of the gods, in fact, because obviously Zeus at the end sets up there being the confrontation between Hercules and Thor, and we saw so many gods in that omnipotent city. That
what a city that is, though! Oh my god,
I know, insane. Like if you everywhere you looked in the whole thing, there was just like Easter egg after Easter egg for different gods that were in there, and it was mind blowing. The second time I watched it, I actually purposely tried my best to try and identify as many of them as possible. Now I'm no like Eric Voss or what's he called, Cosmic Wonder guy, but I did spot quite a few, and I was quite chuffing myself, to be fair. So I mean, again, there's so many possibilities they can do with this kind of the cosmic side of the MCU now. It's not just about the grounded Ms Marvel, Spider-Man stuff. You can have stuff that happens not in New York, but in everywhere essentially, and the multiverse, and it's just there's so many exciting possibilities. I'm absolutely buzzing for where we can go in the next phase. What would you say? So you said that this ranks as like one of your favorite MCU films. Would you say it's like top 3?
100%. I think it's bounced itself straight in there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's very impressive, and it's been very well received by a lot of critics. It's not got the best Rotten Tomato score at the moment, though. Unfortunately,
No, I think a lot of people went in people got in thinking it's going to be like a typical Marvel film. It's going to be a bit like Ragnarok, when it's not. Taiki already said it's not going to be like a typical Marvel film. You have to go in open-minded. It's a love story. It's an adventure. It's Thor trying to find himself, but also trying to save all the gods. So it's like, you stick all them together, you're going to have a shit show. You know, that's what makes it one of the best ones.
Yeah, I think it did a really good job at having that the right. I think again, people said it didn't have this, but I thought it had the right balance of like seriousness, comedy, love, and I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did enjoy the fact that did you realize that all the kids that were all the main kids part of it were actually the kids of the main cast and crew?
Yeah, so I didn't realize until obviously we know Thor's son is the boy running in the montage at the beginning, but his daughter is Gore's daughter.
Yeah, she's love. Yeah, that's so cool. And then you got like some of the, I think Portman and Taika's kids are also part of the team Kids in a Cage, which again is really funny, like just getting them involved and stuff. I saw this TikTok where Taika Waititi was saying that the shadow monsters were actually designed by the kids of the cast and crew as well.
Oh wow!
Taika was like writing the script, and his kid was like, "What are shadow monsters?" And he was like, I don't know. And she was like, I'll draw one for you. So he drew one, and then they went, oh, these look pretty funny. Let's take them to be rendered by some CGI people. And then that's how they managed to get all the creatures, because they just asked all the kids to make whatever they thought was the scariest thing they could think of.
Amazing.
It's mad. That's I mean, imagine being part of your drawing being part of an MCU film. When you're a kid, just being like, right, I'm just going to try this monster. Someone's going to make it, and it's going to be in a film. And it's cool that like Taika Waititi just was able to be like, yeah, just Kev, I'm just going to get my kids to draw something that's going to be in this film. And Kevin Feige's just like, yeah, totally fine, mate. Yeah, don't worry about
absolutely.
Cool. So post-credit scenes.
Yeah,
Hercules and Valhalla. We'll start with Hercules first. I can't remember the guy who plays him. Is it Goldsmith? He's in Ted Lasso.
Yeah, he's the
British fella, isn't he?
Yeah. That's I didn't expect that. That threw me because obviously you think Zeus is dead, and like he's there. And what an actor! The guy that played Zeus is just phenomenal.
Oh, Russell Crowe was phenomenal. So good.
And then you're wondering who he's talking to, and he's like, "You've got to go and do this, got to do this." And then he pops up, and he fits in perfect. I think it's a perfect fit for him.
Yeah.
I think that's leading to something big, because he wants them to make them fear him again, and see Thor's a complete opposite. And
it's going to be a battle for the ages. That Hercules versus Thor. To go back to Russell Crowe. some of the best parts of that film, I think, for Russell Crowe really was some his delivery, and like he's putting on that stupid Greek accent when his little frock on.
Yeah,
his little go. Oh Jesus Christ! I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not Russell Crowe's biggest fan. I think he's a bit overhyped, and I've not really enjoyed a lot of stuff he's been in. So I was a bit underwhelmed when I thought he was cast in this, and obviously the more that came out throughout time and didn't realize he was going to be cast as Zeus, I was like, oh, okay, this might be all right. I thought he was going to be like Zeus and be a big badass and be like really proper serious and be like one of the villains of the film, or in fact, or one of the people who like causes issues for Thor. Well, he kind of does create issues for him, but I didn't realize he was going to be that stupid and that silly. And I didn't think Russell Crowe had that in him, but he absolutely smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. I thought it was well funny. I really did.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And then so we get the final post-credit scene with Valhalla. Now we've seen a lot of this in Phase 4, where we were getting, and obviously a bit in Phase 3 as well with Black Panther, but we're seeing a lot of life after death. So we're getting a lot of variations of different cultures and different the different people's interpretation of the afterlife. We got a big chunk of it in Moon Knight, and again, we got a bit of snip of it with it in Thor: Love and Thunder, with Valhalla being the place where you go to once you die in Norse mythology. Now, there must be a reason why this is coming up so much, and we're getting so much afterlife storylines, or like little hints at what happens after death. Do you think that means that any character that's ever died is definitely going to come back again in some sort of afterlife thing, or not?
Yeah.
Or do you think that maybe they're just doing it just for no reason? Do you think there's the bigger reason behind all this, or not?
I do obviously think with the multiverse, they've obviously opened us. You can see we're seeing characters come back again. We're seeing new characters come in, and I think this is opening. Someone somewhere has opened something that's bringing people back, and I think this has a purpose. I think there's a purpose. I think maybe Thor goes there as well and comes back. Is that something that we look at? It rolls around my head, and I'm like, what do we do? What's going on? It's like it's just sending me in circles. But I definitely think there's something more to it.
Yeah, I mean, because they wouldn't have. I know, because they kind of hinted at they hinted throughout the film about Valhalla, and it was mentioned a few times, because Lady Sif says that let me die and go to Valhalla, but she can't because she's not in battle. And the reason why Jane Foster goes to Valhalla is because she's in battle at that time, but she's in a battle. She's in a battle with cancer, so that's the reason why she goes to Valhalla. So they've set all that up throughout the film for her to go there. But like they kind of have to be doing it for a reason. They can't just be bringing Idris Elba back for a big paycheck for no reason, because it would make sense, but there needs to be a better reason than just why not.
No, I agree.
And it's not very often we get post-credit scenes that don't actually lead towards something. So I think there's something bigger coming. So I think we'll probably leave it there for today.
Yeah.
I think we've gone as far into Love and Thunder as we possibly can do without literally claiming it being the best film ever. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
If you want, you can tell people where to find you on social media if you want them to follow you, or if you're interested in anyone knowing more about yourself, you're more than welcome to plug some social medias. It's up to you.
Well, it's Ryan Morell. So literally, my Instagram's Ryan Morell 17. If anyone wants to find me, it's probably full of rugby stuff, but it's never boring. But yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully we get to do this again down the line. I've really enjoyed it. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. No worries. Thank you very much for being on. If you want to obviously follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at ThatMCUGuyUK. YouTube, ThatMCUGuyUK, and then it's the MCU Guy on every other platform. So you got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all them ones. Obviously, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give us a rating if you're doing this on Spotify. If you listen to it on Spotify, you can give us a rating. 5 stars only, please. We won't tolerate anything less than 5 stars, please. It also helps people find us, and it throws up the algorithm when people are looking for shows about the MCU. So please do that. That'd be much appreciated. Also, the Etsy store has the new Black Widow range has come up. Shang-Chi's coming next, and so that'll be out probably the week after. And I'm gradually getting there with some more content and some more stuff. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for more stuff coming soon. Hopefully back next month with either a preview for She-Hulk, or maybe like a midway through the season discussion. But that's what's going to be coming up next month. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. I've been the MCU guy. He's been Ryan, and we'll see you later. Take care. Bye.
This podcast is part of the That Thing You Might Like network. Here's something you might like. Find us on socials at TTYL Network.